everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this card using the stamp set called Just a Note, along with the Dahlia Stencil from Stencil Pack 1. So this is the stamp set, and we can go ahead and get started. I'm going to tack my cardstock down to my glass mat with some removable tape runner. And then I've sprayed my stencil with some low tack adhesive called Pixie Spray. And so that will ensure that it doesn't move around when I start my blending. So the Oxide ink colors I'm going to blend with are Tumbled Glass, Wilted Violet, Salty Ocean, and I'm going to start out with Spun Sugar. So I'm just going to blend some of this around on my stencil, and then I'm going to take some Wilted Violet and blend that around the outer edges. I'll just keep going back and forth until I get a nice blend. So this one will be the light color in the center, blending out to the darker color. And you can go back and forth as many times as you want. It has an opacity to it, so you can blend the lighter color over the darker color. If you feel like you got too much dark in a certain place, you can go back and put the lighter color over it. Okay, I like that one. So now I'm going to do one of the other flowers, and this time, instead of doing the light in the center, I'm going to go with the dark in the center. So I'm using Salty Ocean and Tumbled Glass. And so I'll go back and forth with this one. So it'll be the darker color blending out to the lighter color. So I'll go back and forth on this one a few times. I like that. And then the last one, I'm going to use Wilted Violet and Salty Ocean. Just thought I would try it. And these two, when they blend together, they look so cool. It's so pretty. Okay. So I'll get all of that out of the way. And now I'm going to use some Stickles glitter gel on top of it. And this one is called Moon Dust. And if you're wondering what I just peeled off there, it's Glad Press and Seal. If you put that on the top of the jar before you put your lid on, it keeps the gel nice and fresh and keeps it from drying up. So I'm going to spread some of this out, and then I'm going to use my spatula from Cricut to get a nice even layer over my stencil. And be mindful of contaminating the gel. You don't want to put your spatula back into the jar if you've got oxide color on there. So that's why I'm wiping some of it off on the paper towel and making sure that I'm keeping what's in my jar nice and pristine. So this Moon Dust glitter gel is so cool. It's kind of iridescent, and it takes on the properties of the color that's below it, and it just looks so cool on top of oxides. So I'm making sure that I have a nice even layer spread around, and then I will peel my stencil off. Now make sure you clean things up immediately, because when this stuff dries, it's like cement, so it will ruin your tools if you don't go clean them up immediately. So I'm going to set this aside to dry, and look at that. Glittery and iridescent and so cool. All right, so everything's setting aside to dry, and I've cleaned everything up, and now we're ready to start stamping. So I have a piece of black cardstock, and I'm going to white heat emboss on this. So I've tapped it with my anti-static tool, and now I'm going to stamp out Just a Note using Versamark ink. And then I'll sprinkle it with the white detail embossing powder. So I don't have a particular size of cardstock here because I'm going to be cutting it using the stitched fancy bracket. So it's just large enough so that I've got space around it to use my thin cut. So I'm knocking off little dots of stray embossing powder using a dry paintbrush. And then I'll use my anti-static, my microfiber cloth to get things cleaned up. And now I'm going to hit it with my heat tool and melt that embossing powder. Okay, so I'm going to bring my Big Shot in, and then I'm going to run that through and cut it out using the smaller of the two that you get in the stitched fancy brackets. It's just the right size to cut this out. So I'm carefully placing it down and keeping it in place using some purple tape, and then I'm going to run it through. Okay. So I have that cut out, and now I can start assembling my card. So I'm going to use an A2 side fold card, and then I have a piece of black cardstock cut at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And so there's going to be a black border around my stenciled piece. Okay. Okay, so off camera, I have stamped the phrase "to tell you thank you" on white daisy cardstock, and then I've cut it out using the smallest stitched bracket. And then I'm also going to be using one of these pink acrylic hearts. Okay, so I've let my stenciled piece dry. It takes about an hour for it to dry and set up. And I'm going to attach it to my card front using score tape. But first, I'm going to wrap it with some of this gold embellishing thread. So to take all the kinks and folds out of it, just run your bone folder along it, and it'll take all those little folds and bends out of your embossing thread. It'll straighten it out. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap it around my card 3 times. I didn't want to use anything that would really cover up this Dahlia stencil because it's so pretty. But I just wanted a little something. So I've wrapped that around, and then I'm going to place it on my card front with that black border around it. Okay, so I'm going to pop my Just a Note sentiment using this foam tape. This is leftover from making shaker cards. And so I'm going to pop that over where I place the gold thread, and then I'm going to place my small bracket that says "to tell you thank you" down using score tape, because that heart has some dimension to it, and so I don't want it sticking up too high. So I'm going to add that little heart using a glue dot. And then I'm going to take some more of this embellishing thread, and I'm going to make a tangle of loops just on the upper left corner, and I'm going to push it underneath the Just a Note sentiment using a couple of glue dots. So if you just take your piercing tool and place it at your glue dots, and then just push everything in, and it takes a little fiddling, but kind of spread those loops around and get them exactly where you want them to be. Okay. And there's my finished card. I'll have some close-ups in a second. So all of these supplies are currently available in my online store. I will make a list with links in the description below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And thanks for watching.